Okay, we're going to explain today tariffs. A tariff is a tax imposed by a government or a country on goods, imports of goods. It's a source of revenue for the government. Who pays them? Donald Trump says the shipping company pays them. So we're going to go through an example, and we're going to look at some websites that I've pre-read, and we're going to go through an example of a car. But what really impacts consumers is T-shirts, clothing. A lot of our day-to-day goods come from China. And what Donald Trump has said is that a tariff is a tax, and the paying company pays the tax. So in our example, we're going to take a Chinese car called the Rabbit. No offense to Volkswagen, and it's a $20,000 car. That's what it would sell for in the United States if it not for tariffs. But the tariff on the car is 100%. 100%. So that means if the retail price of the car is $20,000, or the price paid by the importer is $20,000, in order to get the import released into the United States for sale, they have to pay the United States government $20,000 to get the car into the country. Who really pays it? Well, in this example, the Chinese car company, they paid it temporarily, $20,000 to the government to get the car in the country, but then they have to raise the price of the goods. So this $20,000 car, say it's an EV, is now selling for $40,000 in the United States. So who really paid the tariff? The $20,000 tariff is paid when the car comes in the country, so technically it comes from the car company, but the consumer pays $20,000 more for the car, so the consumer is really paying it. So let's say we consume clothes from China, $5,000 a year for a family of 4 kids. I only had 2, but 4 is a good number. Well, and you're spending $5,000 a year to keep your kids in clothes. Well, if the tariff is 50% on that, that price to you is raised to $7,500. So in fact, Kamala Harris, when she describes a tariff as a sales tax on the American consumer, is absolutely right. I could not stay in business if I paid $20,000 to the United States government on a $20,000 car and then sold it for $20,000, because it cost me $20,000 to buy the car and import it and get it on a boat, build it, get it on a boat, and get it into the United States. So I can't stay in business very long if I'm going to have no revenue from the sales of my cars. I'll be bankrupt immediately. So I have to raise the price of the car by the tariff. Now, there's a historical precedent that you should really take into account. After the Great Depression began with the stock market crash and the financial crisis on Wall Street, nations used tariffs for another purpose that was highly destructive to the economy. They used it to protect their manufacturing industries from the downfall in the economy. If, an example of cars again, the Chinese EV cost $40,000 and General Motors put a EV on the street for $30,000, that gives them a $10,000 advantage over the Chinese EV company. But what happens if the United States imposes a 100% tariff on the cars? China will soon retaliate on the EVs or other products that General Motors or Ford or other products that are being imported into China. So it's a net zero. So what happened in the 2 or 3 years after the stock market crash was quite simple. The price of goods was raised enormously, and the trading system, the economies of the world quickly began to collapse, because there was no more trade was suppressed by the fact that there was too much tax on goods, and the tariffs led to 25% unemployment. The economy was in bad shape from the stock market and the financial issues, but what really made the Great Depression was tariffs. So to call it a sales tax is technically incorrect, but in the end, any good, and many goods have tariffs imposed on them. Any good that has a tariff put on it is like a sales tax. If the importer is charged 15%, 30%, 45%, almost every dollar of that is paid by the consumer that consumes the product. In the case of cars, you have American alternatives. In the case of a lot of goods, you don't. So Harris was right in the debate. It's a sales tax. Now, why Donald Trump does not understand that a tariff is a tax on American consumers is because he doesn't understand the economy. I mean, guys, he didn't understand the economy when he was 68 years old. He's 10 years older now. He understands less. The government makes a lot of money off tariffs, but that's not their purpose. They protect American industry, and they're useful in the short term to help build industries or protect industries from unfair competition, like the EV tax that the Biden administration raised. That was a legitimate defense of American industry. But the purpose in that point is to provide America time to make the goods competitive, or to work out what other things that China is doing for market share, which is they're subsidizing the cost of the car. If it's a $20,000 car example, again, we say, well, look at there. The Chinese government is providing $5,000 worth of support. So although the car costs $25,000 to make, they can sell it in the United States for $20,000. So a fair tariff would be making up the $5,000 per car of subsidies the Chinese government is putting on in order to gain market share. There's rules about dumping, and that is a situation where goods are sold at below the cost of production. That is predatory, that is damaging the industry, and that's what I'm talking about here. The Trump administration imposed tariffs on industries in 2018. They were not outrageous. They were in the 20-25% range, and they did boost U.S. industries, and they harmed foreign exporters. But what they hurt the most was consumers. And as Kamala Harris pointed out in the debate, the American consumers paid almost every dollar of every tariff. And the 100% tariff plan that vaguely has been proposed by the Trump administration would, in fact, be paid by American consumers and could trigger a recession, a steep recession, as early as 1 year. The economy is already slowing down due to the interest rate hikes and the Federal Reserve, in order to not realizing that the labor market was softening until 6 months after it softened, and they were late with their recent rate cut. But also in the election year, they delay rate cuts in the Federal Reserve because they don't want to be seen as tipping the scales in an election. We'll talk about the Federal Reserve and policy in elections in another lecture. I've got facts to back up all of my my polls and other things here. This is the taxfoundation.org. It is a Republican right-leaning organization, and it is clearly proving that the Trump position on tariffs is wrong. The foreign importer only pays it temporarily, and every dollar they pay to get the product in the country is passed on to the American consumers, and sometimes marked up even more. And I want to assure everybody that no pets were consumed in the production of this video. No pets were harmed. I don't have any pets in the United States. I have a cat in Israel. My wife feeds it, because giving a pet to me, depending on me to feed it, is pet abuse. So I've never had a pet that I'm responsible for my own. And trust me, no pets were consumed in the production of this video. And as far as I can tell, no pets have been found missing in Springfield, Ohio. Why did Mr. Trump talk about that? Well, he saw it on TV, so it must be true. Well, you saw it on a YouTube channel that's backed by facts, and maybe that's really true.